And we want to get right now to that breaking news in Italy. A jury there in Rome reached a guilty verdict today for two Bay Area college students in the murder of a police officer, and they were both sentenced to life in prison. The jury deliberated for more than 12 hours before delivering the verdicts against 21-year-old Finnegan Elder of San Francisco and 20-year-old Gabriel Natale Hjorth of Mill Valley. They were college students, friends, vacationing in Rome 2 years ago. Prosecutors say that Elder stabbed the plainclothes officer 11 times and that Natale Hjorth helped him hide the knife. The two claimed they were defending themselves during a drug deal gone bad. Both were led immediately out of the courtroom after the verdicts were read. For more on this breaking news, our legal analyst Michael Cardoza joins us now. Michael, what do you think was the reason that the jury here convicted both men and sentenced both to life?
Well, let's start, Heather, with who the jury was. You have a presiding judge, you have a second judge, and you have 6 jurors, 8 people, 2 of which are judges. Those people were the jury in this particular case. This was a drug deal gone bad, so certainly there wasn't sympathy for the 2 American young men, and they turned the deceased police officer into a national hero in Italy. So this verdict does not shock me at all.
Michael, there were issues, though, with the case. Neither of the Italian officers had their police badges or handcuffs at the time of the incident. And there were questions about how authorities questioned both of the men. Still, though, they were convicted.
Absolutely. They were convicted. And it was what we call a swearing contest. You have the surviving officer come into court and say, we were not in uniform, we were undercover. We approached the 2 young men who said a drug deal had gone bad, and they had been given bunk instead of the cocaine that they wanted. The police officer, surviving police officer, said, we identified ourselves as police officers. The 2 young men said, no, they didn't. I'll leave that up to people as to whether police officers do or do not do that. So that was the first thing right from the get-go. Did they identify themselves? One officer said yes. 2 foreigners, the Americans, said no, and the jury apparently believed those 2 officers. And one of the young men was carrying a 12-inch knife. So all those circumstances led up to this conviction.
Yeah, as you mentioned, not a lot of sympathy. These 2 Americans buying illegal drugs, and then at least one of them with that very large knife. Okay, Michael, though, this is not only a guilty verdict here in Italy. This is a life sentence. Are there any options for the 2 Bay Area men?
Well, absolutely. They have an appellate right. The question will be, will they get out while they're allowed to appeal? Now that court has sentenced them to life, I don't think they're going to get out of prison while the appeal goes on. And do I think the appeal will be successful? No, I don't. And keep in mind also, Heather, that the defense in this case, the defense attorney for this stabber said that he was having mental issues, and that's why he stabbed the officer, among other reasons, that he didn't know that he was a police officer and thought he was being mugged by criminals. I know in this case there was some issue about the trajectory of the stab wounds that apparently bode well for the 2 young men, but the court didn't buy that and convicted them and then immediately sentenced to life in prison. I don't think they're going to win an appeal. They may modify the sentence, but this guilty verdict will not be overturned.
Yeah, and Michael, what do we know about the conditions there in Italy for prisoners? And do we expect these 2 men to, in fact, serve out life sentences, or do they get a chance to, let's say on good behavior, be released a little earlier?
I'm not totally familiar with the Italian prison system, but I think it's somewhat parallel to ours. Again, they'll have their appellate rights. They will go to prison where they serve their time. Will be in a prison that's somewhat similar to what we have here in the United States. I have never visited them or become familiar with them. I can only assume they're similar to ours, and it's not going to be much fun for those 2 young men being in prison, especially what are they, 21 and 20 years of age, and they'll be in for life. That's an awfully long time.
Yeah, it's already been a long 2 years for both of the men and their families here in the U.S. We will continue to follow this case, but again, 2 guilty verdicts for both of them. Michael Cardoza, always a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather. Stay healthy.